This is Governor Bobber. I like good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Hey, everybody, on a special night. It's convention eve. It is Dr. Politics and the Political Architect show. We have a skeleton crew because some of the doctors are helping with the convention for tomorrow. And you can all see us in person tomorrow night at the convention. We can hand out autographs and stickers and some other swag. Hope to see everyone tomorrow at Maryland Live. Welcome, doctors. Let me introduce Dr. Jeff Thornton. Welcome, Jeff. And Don Irvine, man who needs no introduction. Welcome. It's been a busy week. We only had 4 days, you know. What's that?
No, so it sounds good to me.
Yeah. And it's been a busy week, even though we're only at day 4 of the week, you know. So Joe Biden could do something really stupid. By the way, Joe, if you do something really stupid, we will be on tomorrow to talk about you if you do something really stupid between now and then. But
well,
go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, you started off by talking about convention, the Maryland State Republican Party convention tomorrow night, kind of the kickoff, the reception, and some other things like that, with the full day on, with the sessions on Saturday. So, you know, I mean, I guess for a lot of, I mean, not this time, but I mean, I guess, you know, it's going to be much more heavily attended in person than it was last time around, now that we're kind of off of codes. It could be, I mean, I don't know, Dwight.
Are you not going because it's not in Ocean City?
Yeah, right.
Are you not going because it's not in Ocean? You're protesting the fact that we're not in Ocean City this spring or summer?
I'm still debating whether or not I'll make it to Rocky Gap in the fall, for heaven's sakes.
Oh, Young will love it because the leaves are changing color. She'll love the drive out there. It'll be beautiful.
Yeah, well, I mean, what is that? Is that like a 2-hour drive for me or something, or an hour and a half?
3.
Ocean City, yeah, 3 hours.
No, Rocky Gap, which is the
no, I'm talking about Rocky.
Yeah, I think it's about 3 hours.
Where is it located?
Yeah, you may be right.
Near Cumberland.
Oh, Cumberland, yeah.
It's like near the Cumberland Gap, actually.
Yeah, I don't know. It takes about an hour and a half to get to 68, and then probably about another hour. So I'd say 2.5 hours.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like an hour for me to get down.
And you got to stop off over in Cumberland to just take pictures off the off ramp there, of the picturesque view and the Sitco station there.
Yeah, Cumberland and Frostburg, those are nice areas. Very scenic.
Yeah.
I've had one trip to Cumberland in my life, and that was like 1974 for our state. Our football team, high school football team, was in the playoffs, and they had to play Cumberland. And those football players in Cumberland were big.
Bread.
I think they were born in Pennsylvania and then came to, and played high.
Yeah, is it House University up in that area?
Yeah, Frostburg's there. Yeah.
Okay.
And there's some other school out there. I'm trying to think of the name of it, but there's another school out there too. And you hear West Virginia, speaking of Western Maryland, you hear West Virginia is thinking about getting rid of the income tax.
Really? Wow, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah. And
is that to try to attract more people? I mean, West Virginia lost a lot of population, so that's kind of an interesting thing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll see a giant
businesses and people there.
What's that?
Do you think they're trying to attract?
Yeah, I think they are.
Yeah.
But I think what they're trying to do is try to become like a haven for Republicans that are fleeing the high tax states and stuff like that. Because I'm sure they don't want Long Islanders and Montgomery County folks moving to West Virginia, and turning West Virginia blue, frankly, which it used to be a blue state. If you recall, George W. Bush was the first Republican to win West Virginia since his dad won it in '88, I think.
State taxes aren't too bad. I mean, I don't know what it is in Maryland. I have to check my tax records, but wasn't it like 4 or 5% Maryland state tax for income?
Yeah, I think
Maryland?
yeah, Maryland's supposed to be about 5%, but the problem is that are the county surtaxes
Yeah,
basically
that's
up of that, and so that boosts it up, and it's always kind of a pain neck to see. It's like, all right, we've got to we have to add 50% to whatever to do that for the calculation stuff like that. This whole thing in West Virginia would be interesting because state having no state income tax is not a panacea for states. I mean, they've got to make it up somewhere else. And what happens is with a state like Texas, no state income tax, but then you'll look at their sales tax, look at their property tax. It's not a free free money free here.
Yeah, it's kind of like Florida. Yes, my property taxes are high, but sales taxes are about 6%. In some counties, like Brevard, is only 6% for me. It's like the same thing we pay here, not a big deal. And then I think Dade might be at 7.5. I could be wrong. Dade, I think it's 7.5. But I think the highest sales tax in Florida might be 10%. And that might be Broward County. I'm not sure, but it could be Broward County.
10%? That sounds like California.
Well, DC's got 10% sales tax, remember?
10% on food, 6% on sales. I think.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But it's still high.
That's food. Like you're talking about, like grocery food, like produce.
No, that's no. It's like restaurants.
Restaurants.
Things like
Okay.
Yeah,
that's about that's always higher. That's always higher.
Yeah,
and you see, like I don't imagine West Virginia has it, but a lot of places like Detroit, they get a lot of income from the hotels to subsidize the the stadiums and such. So it ostensibly comes out of taxes, but really it's mostly, it seems like it's the hotels and stuff that sponsor a lot of those projects.
Yeah, don't get me started on that though. It's like I think for the last 30 years I've had this thing about my initial experiences with dealing with car rentals and things like that, and you don't realize. I mean, I thought, oh great, I can use like points and get like a free car rental.
Mm-hmm.
I still owed hundreds of dollars in taxes and fees, that aren't my points. And it's like, and if you look at, I mean, car rentals are some of the worst because in some places, and I haven't checked it since COVID kind of shot everything to heck with outrageous car rental prices, but you could spend 50% extra with taxes and fees on a car rental. You'd see $19.99 or $29.99, and then when you actually see all the fees, you're now paying like $45. And all those things. I mean, the hotel taxes, all the things that you're talking about. Yeah, what are they financing? They're financing a lot of stadiums and a lot of other things, and so tourists, business people, they're basically paying all these taxes when they do their business and visit and go on vacation, that are paying for all these other things that they will rarely, if ever, take advantage of, right?
Yeah.
Very easy to tourist.
Yeah, and my first experience with rental cars and fees is, you recall back when I was working, we went to Matt and I went to the GOP convention in San Diego. We rented a Pontiac Bonneville. It cost us, I want to say it was like $500 for a week. May have been more, but I think it was like around 500. And we drove it exactly maybe 30 miles while we were there for a week.
Yeah, I don't even rent cars anymore in California. I just take a Uber or Lyft or something, because it doesn't make sense. Between the traffic and the cost, it's, even though my company pays for it, it's still even more convenient. It just, there's no reason to.
Yeah, and they drive like maniacs, like especially like San Francisco. I mean, Don, remember we went down there? Those people drive like idiots down there. Those up and down those hilly streets,
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make a whole, especially with the way the car rental prices are now. It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense unless you have some real need to go rent a car because of ride sharing and all this kind of thing. Like this whole, that just seems convenient. There's almost no hotel in a big city that won't charge you $25 or more a night to park your car anyway. On top of that, so that's yet another thing you got to pay for.
Well, have you seen too that so all the rideshare companies, Lyft and Uber, first of all, they had to no longer do the passenger car pickup. They had to have their own special entrances and a queue for airports. So that was the first thing. And then a lot of airports are charging them in airport, like, rental or something equivalent, where they have to actually, in order to service customers, just like cabs will charge you like a $25 surcharge to drive from the airport. They're starting to charge the rideshare drivers that too. And I'm like, again, there's no reason for it. It's just that they want money.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they'll call those like dispatch fees, or they'll come up with some kind of name to do that. But yeah, I mean, the airports. What happened there too is that I think they got a little bit scared with all these Uber and Lyft drivers showing up and doing stuff, because it was cutting into their revenue. But they, because they control the kind of who comes in and who comes out in terms of those, whether or not it's a shared van or it's a taxi and things like that. There's usually something there that they're going to get a cut of. But, on the ride hailing, unless they did that, they were going to do it. I mean, look what happened in New York. I mean, the Taxi and Limousine Commission, which has got the medallions and the whole controlling thing. They went through and tried to punish them. And, California, with their kind of, they've been, pushing that gig, economy kind of, law. They wanted
I forget what state prop that was, but they had a state proposition for like all of like the independents. It wasn't like just the rideshare drivers, but it was all kinds of like independent people having to and I can't remember the specifics of it, but it would make it a lot harder for them to do business. I think it either required insurance or other types of benefits that they would have to encumber when they're just we're doing like part-time work.
And now Joe Biden
it hit journalists. Journalists got caught up in there too. People who were freelance journalists. They got sucked into that. And so you can even have liberal freelance journalists all of a sudden saw, wait a minute, we've got to comply with this, and a lot of publications dropped those freelancers because they didn't want to deal with the California law about having their hours and their pay and all this kind of stuff. They didn't want those extra expenses.
But now Joe Biden wants to tax gig right now. I think, what is it, $12,000? It's when you start having to pay a tax on if you're doing like these gig jobs, like if you're delivering Uber Eats, which he's now dropped that down to $6,000. So, when you make $6,000, he's going to hit you with income tax, just like any other income. And I think it's basically the war on entrepreneurship. And I mean, Joe Biden needs to pay for his $1 trillion infrastructure plan somehow, and this is how he's going to do it, by taxing this, taxing that. If it moves, it's going to be taxed. And a lot of the hotel and restaurant owners, they don't, like a lot of these, like New York keeps taxing tourists, pass. And here's the thing, hotels can't keep passing those costs onto the folks that stay at the hotels. And and that's one of the bigger problems in larger cities. I remember I went to Philadelphia for a conference a few years ago, and I put my car in the garage. I didn't even take it out because they were charging as you go in, as you go out. They're going to charge you. And it was, I think I paid almost like $75 a night to keep, 75 or 45 bucks a night to stay at the Sheraton in downtown Philadelphia. And because that's why I kind of like going to the conventions like North Carolina, where it's always free parking at the hotel. We like even in Maryland, when we go out to Maryland Live, or we go to the DoubleTree or anywhere in Ocean City, we get free parking. And that's really what's great about going to not a big city for a convention. A lot of people are saying we should have the state party convention in Baltimore City at some point, but who's going to pay? I mean, people were complaining about Ocean City a few years ago, saying how the hotel was really expensive. What do you think is going to happen in Baltimore City? The hotel is going to be expensive, and you're going to also have to pay to park your car there. So
you're talking about those kind of fees and stuff. I was going to say that I have a bit of a prediction. It's kind of late now, but so you see like cities like New York, where they're caught in the middle of a crisis because they have so many properties that have some intrinsic value according to the real estate companies. So, they think that their property is worth so much money, and so they want to rent it out to businesses at a certain, cost per square footage, because that's in line with their business. But because of COVID and other situations, people don't have the money to rent out the businesses, and the businesses refuse to lower the cost of the rental units to meet the lower demand, because that would tank their value of the property. So if they had a property that was, I don't know, some say like $10 million, based upon like say like $200 a square foot, and they had to rent it out at $100 per square foot, then you pretty much have the value of the building, and so they would like lose money for that. And because their investments are tied up in the properties, nobody wants to like lose that money. So it's kind of feeds on itself, because now it's like, again, people can't afford to be in the businesses are shut down, and you see all these places that are basically abandoned, where they're just like holding onto the property, and at some point it's got to collapse, because at some point, even though on paper your property may be worth some amount of money, if you can't sell it to anyone, at what point do you cut your loss and say, we can't afford to stay in business anymore?
Very true.
It's been interesting too, I think, with COVID, with the pandemic, in terms of, I think, Sam Zell is one of the big real estate investors in the country, and he's kind of a vulture investor he was looking for bargain. He really couldn't find any. He really could find few, if any, bargains in that whole office space, where where the property he could swoop in and buy, and then try to turn around and rent the offices out and make some money off of the whole darn thing. But at some point in time, I mean, with the economy has changed. We're not. I don't know that we'll really ever see office workers return en masse to the office ever again like we used to. There's going to be some combination. Some offices will. Others are going to be 2 or 3 days a week, and the rest people are going to be at home. People learn to work at home, and they love it. They don't want to return to the office in a lot of cases.
Maybe I'm odd man out here. Okay,
I know. We know you love it because you want the people. You are a people person, Dwight.
Yeah, and I like people, and what I also like. I miss going to Goddard at least once or twice a week. I miss going there, because when I go to Goddard, it's an experience. I get to go to Three Brothers. I get to go to the Jiwa store. I get to go see the Rockets by the Visitor Center. I mean, it's a lot of fun. And then I get to go to my office over there, which is in a beautiful building. That it's got an interesting history. The building was originally supposed to be all underground and just have skylights at the top, but it became too expensive to do it that way, so they just built it above ground. But it's an experience, and I see a lot of people, like there's very few bloggers out there that are whining about, like the Washingtonian said, hey, you better come back to work, otherwise I think take a pay cut or you're fired or something like that. Mm-hmm. And people are complaining about there's this one particular YouTuber who goes, oh, that's illegal. No, it's not. It's it's every state in America with the exception of, I think, Montana is an at-will work state. So you can be fired because I'm having a bad day and you can't do it. There's no recourse for you, frankly, at the end of the day. And I think the employer is the boss, and if he wants you in the offices, or you take, and that's one of those things. Like, if you don't like coming to work, you can look elsewhere. Frankly,
And a lot of people have. I mean, a lot of people have decided that they don't want to return, and they'll look for other jobs, and there are definitely other jobs out there. And,
yes.
And we've seen, and we know that there are jobs that are out there that when you're living in places like San Francisco, LA, New York, Washington, DC, things like that, where it costs more to live, they're getting paid more to help make up for that. If you decide to keep your job with Facebook, but you want to live in Montana, and Facebook comes back to you and says, well, the cost of living there is, it's far different. We're going to cut your pay back to try to, make up for that. Mm-hmm. You should complain about that. In most likelihood, you'll probably still come out ahead. You're probably not going to cut your salary enough to actually make it so that you'll actually, wind up being any worse off. I think you still wind up being better off.
And I know a lot of, I have to commend my guys, my folks at the various government agencies, like BATS and Sparkles. They've been getting everything done. They've actually been more efficient, I think, working from home And as I had this conversation, and I mentioned, I go, Bats, if you don't want, if you want to telecommute, and miss out on all the fun that we have at Goddard, you can telecommute. I mean, you're doing a good job, but I'd like you to come at least once or twice a week so we can go. So when I'm there, we can go to Three Brothers, or we can, do other stuff,
So besides the social elements, though, I mean, what are the benefits for working at a building? Because basically, you're talking about, you want to monitor work, and most jobs nowadays are like, services-based jobs where, it really doesn't matter where you work as long as you do your work.
Yeah.
So the measure of success isn't the fact that you're in the office; it's the fact that you're getting your work done.
Yeah.
So ultimately, whether you work in an office, remote satellite office, at home, whatever, if you're getting the work done, and it's easier for you because you don't have to deal with rush hour traffic and spend an hour and a half each way, like 3 hours of the day just driving, that benefits everyone.
Yeah.
So I can see that being the case, but there are some jobs that you just can't obviously work from home. You can, construction.
McDonald's workers can't work from home.
Yeah, you can't work from home from those places. But that being said, a majority of the higher paying jobs you can, because at that level, you've already kind of proven the fact that you're trustworthy, because to get to that level of, job, you've had to demonstrate your performance in other jobs. So it's less of an issue of like, trusting your employees, more just an issue of, are they able to work by themselves, work remotely, whatever, and do what's required of them.
I have faith in my employees. I don't think I've had a really bad employee ever where I've had I've heard all the horror stories where employees come in, they slip away, and somebody else signs them out. They go watch movies all day long. I've heard the whole gambit of horror stories. I am knocking on marble because I've got some of the best employees in the world. That give me 110%, and I have to yell at them to go home at the end of the day. Those are the best employees.
Yeah, and I mean, they're, Jeff's right. I mean, you guys, there are some jobs that you need to be there, and there are other jobs where you need to have a collaborative effort, right? And it's harder to do that off of Zoom or Teams, because there's a lot of stuff like that in the creative work where you need to, you're being in the same room, you can read the faces of your colleagues.
Yes.
The stuff that goes on there, sitting here like we are now is fine for what we're doing, but if we're trying to create certain things, certain ad campaign or doing something creative, it's far better for us to be in a room together to throw stuff around than to be on a call like this. So, but we will have some office work. It's not going to be the same as it used to be.
I mean, we'll all go into the office to use the big whiteboard, even though there's software that can do that. But I mean, I do like the the whiteboard, go up there and drawing pictures, and like explaining wireframes. I remember years ago I was explaining the difference between having a subdomain, not a subdomain, but having a folder opposed to a subdomain for every site. I go, think of a subdomain as a subdivision where every house is detached and you have its own, and think of a folder as a condo complex where you got one site, everything looks the same, and you can go in. And I still use that actually a lot because that's actually a pretty cool way to explain stuff to people, I think, but I think I just like people. I think that's why I like going in. If I was not a people person, I mean, we all know people like that. I mean, can you imagine Santa Claus, who's a people person, the ultimate in people person, do this zooming, like the elves would be freaking riding at the North Pole, I mean, Santa's a people person. Santa likes to go into the workshop. I know a lot of folks.
There are lots of Santas on the unemployment line this past year.
Right, we consider, what is it that America produces nowadays? I mean, we're no longer a manufacturing economy. I mean, we've kind of given that off to China. So we either design or we have other projects that we, like programming, other work that require, creating things, and those can be done really anywhere. I'm not talking about like the services industry, like food services, but the higher jobs, are typically more collaborative or design work where we don't need to have the same level of people that are in the office all the time. Again, not saying you can ever get away from it entirely, but by and large, the kinds of, like you said, the kinds of collaborative conferences. Now we have, shared whiteboards where people share screens and those things, and it's different, but people are adapting to it. I mean, people are getting used to dealing with remote collaboration and working together, and coming back and still meeting. So it's it may not be as efficient, but the trade-off has to be determined by the company, I guess. But ultimately, the people are making it work.
Mm-hmm. And good on you if you don't want to go back in the office. But I don't care. As I was talking to was a branch chiefs, the so-and-so over at NASA today. They go, would you come into the office if you're the only one here? I go, yes, I would. I need to, I need to be able to go there. Because one thing I found out is when I'm at home, I actually set an alarm telling me, hey, get up and walk around. Like when I'm at various different locations, I'm rarely sitting in one place for that long of a time because I'm jumping up, going to meetings, even in conference rooms, I'm jumping up and drawing stuff on the boards and stuff like that, and walking around, meeting people and so on like that. You can't really do that at Zoom. You just I'll buzz James a couple times a day just for the hell of it, and it's not the same as me walking over to his office and going, hey James, you want to go to Three Brothers?
Right, but to your point, so this is one of the classes I had in my second course at UMGC. It was talking about this, and that the corollary is that people are now more engaged in extracurricular activities. So people that tend to work more at home are now more engaged in service projects soup kitchens or other social programs where they have the time in the evening now, which they didn't before. And again, they crave the company, so now they are meeting those cravings by doing service-based work. So again, you can spin it any way you want to, but there are ways to deal with it. I mean, I agree that if all you do is stay in your room all day and you don't interact with anyone, that's not healthy. Yeah. But just from a work environment, obviously that's there are ways.
I do like the idea. There's less traffic on the roads when I'm out there. Mm-hmm. Although it is getting back to where it was.
I can vouch for a horrible traffic. I in the last couple of days, we've driven to Annapolis and back, and we just came back from Suitland today, and it was just horrid. I know. Yeah, it was bad enough at, 3:00 in the afternoon or whatever it was that we left Suitland.
That's a long drive.
We started north on 95, got off and reversed ourselves and went south and came through Virginia to come home. Well, there's no winning situation there. We moved, we hit Tyson's Corner, but 95 was almost at a dead stop.
Mm-hmm. And there's no real good back roads. Like when I go to Goddard, if I get stuck, I'll jump off and I'll take 29, take that all the way across to Randolph and then cut across from Randolph and make my way all the way over to Veers Mill, cross Veers Mill, and get over to get home that way. I can do that, which I don't mind, which is fine, going all the way out there. But I kind of like the drive. It lets me listen to Vince Colonnese now. It used to be Larry O'Connor when I do it that way, but still, what the great thing is in the mornings, I can usually get from door to door in about 15 minutes. And one thing, I do want to remind everyone, that big orange thing in the sky is called the sun, and the protection from that is sunglasses. So don't slam your brakes where 95 and 495 meet because you haven't seen the sun before. No,
sounds like a pet peeve here.
It is. That really drives me nuts. Everyone slams it. Oh, it's like the sun. It's like the sun. It's been there for billions of years, It's been there before you've been around. Get used to it. Put on a pair of sunglasses. It's like, and I've seen so many accidents happen right around there because people just slam the brake. Oh my God, it's the sun. You think they're vampires that are driving, But
all right, let's go on to some other news.
Yeah.
I want to ask you guys about this whole thing. So, Representative Byron Donalds, so he's Florida. He's a Republican. He's black. And he's trying to do what other black Republicans have done in the past, which is to join the Congressional Black Caucus, right? So this is, in theory, the Congressional Black Caucus is for black congresswomen and congresswomen. But it might as well be the Congressional Black Democratic Caucus because the Republicans can't get in.
Tim Scott was denied membership too, as was J.C. Watts. Maybe they should just start the conservative Black Caucus.
Well, the problem is that there are not enough of them, except that you get maybe one or two at a time.
So you got what is it? Virgil. We got Virgil Owens in the House.
Burgess Owens.
Burgess Owens, yeah, there you go. And then you got the gentleman from Florida. You got enough to start your own caucus there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you got it. I think it's good to have at least 10. Okay. If two or three, I think you're just going to be opening up to kind of ridicule from the media and the left and everything like that. And you just don't need that extra garbage from them.
I've always joked,
but the hypocrisy of the liberal Democrats, the Congressional Black Caucus, they keep putting up all kinds of objections and excuses as to why they can't let these people in there. But it's strictly that they don't want conservatives, they don't want Republicans in there. They are discriminating against the people with the same skin color because they are not of the same ideology. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
who chairs the Congressional Black Caucus right now? Do you know, Don, off the top of your head, or I can Google it?
Yeah, I was gonna say that your skin color shouldn't have to do it with like your economic status or anything else, and your specific needs as far as whether you fit in with aligning with more Republican or Democrat. Yeah, sure. It tends to skew in a certain way, but again, that's like saying that like all farmers are white. It's just like most farmers probably are, but again, that shouldn't be exclusive things. Mm-hmm. It's just because it has been that way historically, it shouldn't be an exclusivity. So again, there are a lot of
By the way, I am sharing the page of the Congressional Black Caucus for our viewers, and this is the chairwoman, the lovely Joyce Beatty from. Where's she from? She's from somewhere, but she's the chair, and I think we should all send her little postcards with the Black Republicans on it and say, "Let our people in. Let our people in." And I think it'd be kind of funny project to do, just like But here's the thing: this is the long history about the Congressional Black Caucus. They've denied J.C. Watts. They've denied a number of other prominent Republicans. I believe Gary Frank was also denied membership. They've done that to basically anybody with an R next to the name is not welcome. It's kind of like, I used to joke how, and every so often April Fools, I'll do a little joke how the NAACP has changed their name to the NAALCP. National Association of Liberal Colored People, because they don't like conservative colored people. They hosted an event, and I hate that I keep having to use this as an example, but the former Republican, who's now a Democrat, former Lieutenant Governor from Maryland, who's a little bit ethically challenged also, they did when he was running for U.S. Senate, the Prince George's County NAACP had an event where they threw Oreo cookies at Michael Steele, former Republican, now Democrat, and they basically had pictures on posters of him in blackface. There was no outrage, and this was done by the NAACP. There was no outrage. There was nothing on MSNBC about this, nothing in the Washington Post about this. Michael Graham covered it, former local morning guy on WMAL. And that's about the extent of the coverage. I think AIM did a story on it, if I remember correctly, back in the days about that. But it's a shame for what they do, what the NAACP, Congressional Black Caucus, what they do to conservative Black folks,
Yeah, I mean, the Democrats always bring up, they love to play the race card and everything like this, but they become very discriminatory and to a degree very racist against people who just don't fit their profile when they have the same skin color, and it's not fair.
Yeah.
I hope Byron Donalds continues to fight this and to make this somewhat of a case, because especially in this day and age with all this racial sensitivity, You know, they talk about social justice and all this kind of stuff. You know, don't they understand how bad it makes them look at this point? But you know, the media you talked about, right? I mean, the media didn't want to do anything about Michael stuff on Michael Steele. They're not going to touch this. Only conservative media will talk about this.
Yeah. By the way, the parliamentarian of the Congressional Black Caucus is Sheila Jackson Lee.
Yeah, what a great congresswoman she is.
Yeah, Sheila Jackson Lee, and Frederica Wilson is their secretary.
The woman of many hats, the hat lady.
I tell you, this picture, she kind of looks like Della Reese when she was on Touched by an Angel. She kind of looks like Della Reese, you know.
Yeah, she's kind of stylish, right?
Yeah. And you know what's funny is Della was a very spiritual person. She would not have fooled around with what Hollywood is doing today if she were still around. I know, and that's that's a conversation maybe for another day. But old Hollywood was not as woke as it is today. You know, sure, a lot of them were Democrats, but they were also, some of those people were spiritual people. You know, Della Reese, I'm willing to bet she was probably a Democrat. She may have been a Republican, but I think she was a Democrat. But she was a very spiritual person. She'd be out of step with Hollywood today because she has the audacity to have faith. You know.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, if you look back at the old Hollywood days in general, I mean, yeah, they had, I mean, Reagan, we obviously knew he was a conservative. He made no bones about that when he was, acting and stuff like that. And the Bob Hopes of the world and things like that.
John Wayne,
But they were not so overtly political that you thought about it too much. I mean, I didn't think a whole lot, too much about John Wayne's politics or Bob Hope's politics or Ronald Reagan's politics or whatever, or anybody else on the other side. Most of them they spent most of their time really just working on their craft and making movies and television shows and whatnot. And politics really didn't play a big role in that. But now politics plays a very big role in Hollywood. Movies and television shows have that underlying current on all of this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, not to step on your point at all, but we also did have the era of McCarthyism too.
Right, sure.
So we had stains where people went overboard and went over accusing people, and so it's one of those things that but unfortunately, I mean, to your point, it's like it's assumed by like all the media that the media is being liberal because they are covering like everything and not like, and they're like kind to everyone. So the rhetoric is that like Republicans are out of step with reality, that they are so closed-minded that they can't accept people of different faiths, different color, different beliefs, different genders. They're just in their own little world, and that the liberals are the ones who are have open arms and accepting of everyone and agree with everything. And it's unfortunate because that's not always the case. And I try to distinguish between like being conservative like spiritually versus politically versus financially. I mean, there's a whole different gamut of that. And I hate to have the whole party painted with one brushstroke. But part of the problem is that we don't even have these dialogues anymore. It's just we've kind of both sides have kind of closed each other off to any kind of reasonable discourse. That I can understand in a sense why the Black Caucus wouldn't accept people that have divergent viewpoints, because they don't want to have any kind of bickering inside the caucus. They don't want to have like people with different viewpoints, because why would that wouldn't really advance the party at all. So if they have everyone who thinks all one way, then it's very easy for them to have an agenda where people are saying, well, have you considered this aspect? Have you considered this? This may affect these people disproportionately. Then they've got to, it kind of gums up the works a little bit.
And here's the thing, Hollywood does discriminate against conservatives. I mean, ask Kirk Cameron, Scott Baio, Dean Cain, Kevin Sorbo, Kirstie Alley, and that's just to name a few. Kelsey Grammer, he kind of bucked that trend. Another Republican in Hollywood. Then you had folks like Dirk Benedict. I mean, when Fred Grandy used to be in WML, he would talk about the conservative underground in Hollywood, where you'd have conservative actors meeting in like underground places, quietly talking right of center politics. And it's like hard to believe it's living in America that you cannot have the free expression of your political beliefs and views. Yeah.
I mean, I think there's also something to be said of having your political views versus becoming an activist for a lot of these things and going onto the front lines, which I think upsets and gets to a lot of people. I mean, Tom Selleck has still maintained a very nice career despite the fact that he is a conservative, he is a Republican.
Yeah.
He's carved a very nice career. A lot of people get, they do get kind of blacklisted in their own way once they do become more political on the conservative side.
Mhm.
You can be a political liberal. It's like, oh yeah, we love you. We want to do these things. I mean, look, Dick Wolf has made a fortune. He's made a long career of, basically taking the headlines and turning them into TV scripts. And if you take from the headlines, I mean, you're going to see, especially lately, you're going to see a lot of racial, justice type of things, BLM things, and stuff like that get into his programs all over. They're both on CBS and NBC, which is where they mainly air. And that he nobody really complains about that. I mean, I cringe sometimes when I watch some of those things, but I understand. His things are. He just creates. He takes the headlines, he puts them out there. And then you got to decide whether or not where the script is going. Is it favoring one side or the other? But I remember going back to the old Cagney and Lacey days when they got somewhat political and stuff like
Remember
that.
they did one on abortion? That was like there was a station in New Hampshire that didn't air that episode. They did one where I think Cagney. Who was Time Daly? Cagney or Lacey? Who was the Time Daly's character? But she was pro baby killing, and the other one was pro life. And they had this argument, and I thought we were friends. I remember that was like in one of the promos.
And I think they did one on South Africa and apartheid, and taking a view on that and stuff like that.
And there's other shows that have done in the past I've seen. I know there was I'm trying to think of the name of the shows from the 80s. They did one about the martial law in Poland and how I want to say it sounds like it was an episode of Give Me a Break, where because the police chief was of Polish descent, and I think his father was going to go to Poland, and the big argument was you can't go there right now, it's martial law going on there, and so on. But those are things that people, most people that are typical watchers of Give Me a Break probably were not keeping up with the news. At least now they hear about stuff like martial law in Poland, or I think it was what was that show with the preacher, and he had like 7 or 8 kids. It was on the CW. The mother's a Republican on that show in real life. I'm trying to think. They did one on the Lost Boys of Sudan. They didn't get too preachy, but they later seasons they did get very preachy on the social justice nonsense. Some of my favorite shows on the CW that I like to try and watch have gotten very woke, and it's really hard to watch some of this stuff. I mean, they're turning comic book characters who are not what they are. Like they've got this Supergirl has this character who's played by a woman, I believe, and in the comic book she's a woman. On the show, she's dating Brainiac 6 or something like that, but they portray her as transgender. How is she transgender? She's a woman playing a woman who's a woman on the show. How is that transgender? And that's like the big hero of the transgender left these days.
Well, my problem, Dwight, is with entertainment. I mean, going back to when I was a kid, was that watching television was entertainment. It was just harmless entertainment.
Steve McGarrett never talked about politics on his show. He just wanted to bring Will Fat down, right?
Yeah, I mean, now it's hard to find a program that's really entertaining from an entertainment standpoint.
Yeah.
Doesn't find a way to get into politics, and particularly left, woke type of politics. And that there's nothing that turns me off quicker to programs is that when they just go political show after show after show. Yeah. I'll take one. I'll give them one every 10 episodes if they want to go ahead and preach, and I'll just ignore it. But if they start hitting me, like every other
week,
I'm gone. I can't do it anymore. And and I know, you loved all those things on the CW, the Arrow and all these.
Yeah.
Time.
And season 1 of Arrow, season 1 of Flash, season 2 of Flash, season 2 and 3 of Arrow were really good. Then they all of a sudden, like Green Arrow wanted to ban guns in Star City, and not but you're not giving up your bow, are you, Ali? And then Supergirl went into the whole. They had the second season was was all about space aliens, and they were doing and you had all these humans telling aliens to go home and so on. And they had Linda Carter, Wonder Woman, was the president, and she was a space alien also. And that was the whole storyline for season 2, about how the evil Republicans want to drive out space aliens like Superman and Supergirl,
Yeah, look, when I first started watching
before in a previous program, but remember, like we talked about Superman 4, was it the Quest of Peace or whatever
Quest
thing
of
where
Peace, yeah.
You got all the nukes and threw them into the sun.
Mhm.
That is, in my estimation, again, with all respects to everyone, but that seems to be like the democratic ideal. Is like, if everyone threw away their guns, threw away their weapons, then there'd be no problems left in the world. That we'd all somehow get along because we had nothing to fight each other with. But in reality, there's always going to be hate. There's always going to be injustice. There's always going to be people that take advantage of other people, whatever party you're in. And I'm not. This is almost like a nonpartisan issue. The fact is that having the right to defend yourself, having the right to maintain your property, having the right to earn your own living. These are like basic
Life,
ideas.
liberty, and pursuit of happiness. That's
right, and that's why I think foundationally that's why I support the parties, because I think that it supports those foundational principles. Whereas Democrats typically say, well, if you can't do this, then you're obligated to help. Which again, I understand that there are some people that need help, but to live in a welfare state where everyone is equal, or that every viewpoint is equal, or every job is equal, that is socialism. Because at that point, it doesn't matter your skill, it doesn't matter your education, it doesn't matter how much effort you put into it. You're given the same as everyone else, and that's that may be the ideal for some people, but that is why I can't support that, because again, I believe that as much as people need help, and I'm willing to help them, that the people that can move forward should move forward, because again, it's like the No Child Left Behind. It sounds good on paper, but in practice, it means that you're teaching to the lowest denominator, as opposed to encouraging the highest people that can perform to do the best they can. You're saying, well, we got to make sure that everyone understands this. So we're going to spend 4 weeks on addition and subtraction because we need to make sure that Johnny gets it.
But see, Jeff, you're talking about math, and that's a very racist. Arithmetic is very racist, along with grammar.
But look, I mean, my own kids. I mean, Jeff, that's an interesting. That's a good point. The thing, when my kids were in elementary school, particularly my 2 oldest, they happened to be pretty good spellers, and so the school spelling groups based on the better spellers would just have tougher words, and they kept basically trying to challenge them with tougher words, and they would just move them up based on that. The problem was that my kids got to a point where they were not allowed to progress beyond that level because they had to kind of wait for the other kids to try to catch up that were struggling with their spelling. And I'm like, what is wrong with this world? It's like, what are we teaching our kids? How do we succeed as a nation? Continue if we have to just bring all these people up all the time. We have to hold the higher achievers back, wait for them to catch up. I mean, this doesn't make any sense. This is not the real world. When you go out the job, it's not like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, you're great, but we got to talk to some people at the lower end who are not as good. Maybe we can get them up to your level, and then we can talk to you, and then maybe we can hire somebody.
Well, but to your point, though, I mean, that is the world we live in, because you look at, the government, prefers companies that are minority owned, that have certain, ethnic groups as, major stakeholders. So there are, and again, this isn't anything about like, reparation or people that, that need help. But again, it's almost unbalanced by design. So, if you're in that world where, you play the disenfranchised card, you can play that throughout life. I mean, there are programs that recognize that and will keep you on that playing field. You'll never be a millionaire, but, at the same point, your level of contribution versus what you're getting back seems to be disproportionate, in my opinion.
I mean, look. I mean, and people will try to use and manipulate their racial status, their race on forms. That you're asked to fill in. Are you Caucasian, Asian, blah, 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 all this kind of thing. I keep thinking about Elizabeth Warren. Well, what, 2064th, whatever it is, Cherokee or whatever, to try to get a little preference in there. It's like, that's sad to me. We have to, people do.
And we're in such a day and age where you really can't deny, you can't say, well, I need some proof here, that you have, your DNA, or, I mean, and I'll tell you, by the way, the highest you could be is an Alaskan Native. And because Alaskan Native folks, you know how if you're an 8A company, you get the sunset. Alaskan Natives, it goes on forever. So Sarah Palin, if you want to start a consulting firm, you're in Alaska. She's from Alaska, right? She's like a native of Alaska. Mm-hmm. So she could actually start a consulting business, get government contracts hand over fist, and she'd keep getting them. And they could even take the contracts away from other companies and just hand it to them because she's Alaskan Native.
See, I want to know. I mean, I think throughout my entire life, I've always checked off the boxes like, Caucasian. Mm-hmm. But my mother's Japanese. I'm 50-50. Yeah. If I had gone Asian, would that have benefited me? I don't know.
No, not really. No, because you get Asian privilege too. Okay. I've actually gone back and forth on there because back when we graduated from high school, my race code was Caucasian because my ancestors are like what do you call? We're not Asians, and I've had a certain former member of the Senate committee also say, well, you're really not an Asian, you're whitey. And I'll tell you offline who it was, but you have an idea. And I don't care. It makes no difference. It doesn't change who I am. And that's one thing, that is a little bit, my view is this, when you're a Republican, skin color, pigmentation, ethnicity doesn't make you special. What makes you special is you believe in the core principles of the Republican Party: tax cuts, family values, and national security, national defense. And that makes you a Republican. We're not Democrats where, oh, you're Chinese, you need to be a Democrat because whiteys over there don't want you. Oh, you're black. Oh, you got to be a Democrat. And then they got their own little caste system within the Democrat Party. Even amongst, like, what is it? Somebody was telling me, you have the gays and lesbians. Then you got the transgenders and whatever the letters are. And there's like a caste system within there. Where
LGBTQIA. You've got the non-binaries now, right?
Yeah, and I think what is it? The gays, the L and the G's don't like the T's because the T's are getting more higher street cred these days. So I mean they've got their own little caste systems. I can see. I mean, like the Democrats, kind of the way they got a caste system. I mean, you've got rich Democrats. Then you got the poor Democrats, and then you got the middle class Democrats, and it's all It's like, look at the Virginia governor's race. And look at who the Republicans nominated for governor. Look who the Democrats nominated for governor. I mean, they've got basically white males running for attorney general, running for governor, lieutenant governor. I mean, wow, we've got a Cuban. I guess, is that Hispanic or is that Cuban? We've got a African American woman, and we've got a entrepreneur businessman. The Democrats have three of the same, basically three of a kind, more or less. Mark Herring, who has let more people out of jail. I mean, I think he just hands out get out of jail cards when he walks the streets of Richmond. He just hands out these get out of jail cards that the criminals can take when they go in. And I think Virginia is due for a change, and I think they're going to elect a Republican, at least 1 out of 3. They might actually get 2 out of 3, maybe 3 out of 3, depending on how bad Crazy Joe has things come November.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be an interesting race because, the Republicans seem to have nominated 3 pretty good people this time. So it's not like, they've got some real, nutcases out there and they're going to get creamed. How Terry McAuliffe does, coming back, I don't know. I mean, he He didn't have a horrible record for Democrats as a governor before. They do control the legislature at this point, but they could lose a little bit there as well. I think part of it is depending on how much the Democrats can successful they are in trying to tie Youngkin to Trump. But Youngkin is not that close to Trump in the sense.
He's not a man to chase.
I think that looks like more of a desperate effort on the part of the Democrats, because I think they're to try to make that that tie-in where it really doesn't exist.
And I'll tell you what's happening is this is Donald Trump. I mean, we all know President Nixon and what happened. When the communists over the Washington Post, Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein, brought down a president who was anti-communists, who were probably paid by Moscow on the take. I kid, but who knows? But President Nixon, every Republican was President Nixon for a while. The Democrats are now taking that playbook, and now every Republican is Donald J. Trump. I mean, I'm willing to bet, if, say, hypothetically, if Larry Hogan runs for president and for some weird anomaly he gets the nomination, he's the presidential nominee, every Democrat's going to morph him into and Larry Hogan, and they'll morph him into Donald Trump. But even though the fact that Larry Hogan was admitted to not voting for the president twice, the left will demonize him just as they demonized every other Republican. John McCain, who was their maverick rock star, who all of a sudden became a racist and so on. And then they did that. Now they seem to love Mitt Romney, and Mitt Romney was going around giving cancer. I'd like to ask, is he still going around giving women cancer like they said? Now that they like him.
Well, we've got about 4 minutes to go. Do you want to do the final thoughts yet?
Yes, I do, but I do want to touch a little bit again. We've got a sponsor message I want to just play, and after that we can do the final thoughts. And this is for the state party is doing a VIP event tomorrow night with Governor Orlik. Tickets are sold up. This is such a fun commercial. I want to show it.
Welcome back, my friends.
Whoops, that's the wrong one.
Welcome back.
One again.
Welcome, Maryland Republicans. I'm Corinne Frank, the Executive Director for the Maryland Republican Party. I wanted to welcome you to our annual convention. We have 2 a year, and this one we are having an amazing reception with Governor Bob Ehrlich. Our reception this year is only $85, and it includes drinks, appetizers, and desserts.
It's a Crazy Eddie blowout blitz. Crazy Eddie's not playing with a full deck.
It is an amazing deal, and we are hoping that we see you there this year.
And it is sold out, but you can come to the general reception at 8:30. It's free for whoever would like to come, and the governor will be around for that as well. So 8:30, but yeah. And I thought that was just a humorous one. So final thoughts, Jeff.
Yeah, I don't know. This has been a crazy week for me because I've been doing a lot of work and catching up on schooling and stuff like that. But I guess from we talked a little bit about the remote, the work from home. I've been working from home for probably the last 6 or 7 years. So this is kind of like old hat to me. But for those that are kind of getting back into like the swing of things, the biggest challenge for me, it was kind of mentioned, was the fact that you don't want to miss the social element because, again, that is ultimately what makes this country great, is the fact that we care about each other, that we're involved, that we do things, and the fact that there are programs, political programs, as well as social programs that everyone can get involved with to helping other people. These are good programs where you can, be active and, get your fill of human interaction and also, make this country great again in terms of helping people through their own issues and such. So I would encourage that, if you're feeling like you need to have, some sort of human interaction, look for, groups that are requesting volunteers for feeding the homeless, or for there's food bank programs for various churches and such. There's so many programs that are out there that you can get involved with, that you really get that human contact where people actually really appreciate what you're doing for them. So I would just encourage that people get involved when they can.
Don, final thoughts?
Yeah, good comments there. Also, just maybe as a little bit of a follow on there too. It's just that one of the issues about the work from home and all the things that we've gone through with COVID is just the effect it's had on a lot of people's mental health. Mm-hmm. So in going forward, I think everybody out there needs to be sensitive to these types of issues. Mental health is not something to be taken lightly. People have had a lot of issues as a result of being kind of cooped up and isolated and things like that. Give them some space, give them some time to kind of get back and kind of get their frame of mind back there. And if people are having some issues, be sympathetic. Don't criticize them at this standpoint. It has been a very trying year plus for a lot of people, and I think we need to have a little bit of sympathy for that. The other thing there too, I think, is just that I don't know. I mean, one of Dwight's favorite people, Kamala Harris, she is trying to figure out what to do on the border and the whole crisis.
But I love the greetings they gave Camilla. When she went down to Honduras, Trump won.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Plus the fact that apparently, I guess we're seeing a lot of Trump won signs being unveiled in baseball parks.
Yeah, it happened. I think at a Marlins game.
Those pictures was kind of funny. But there's Harris, having gone to Guatemala, I guess it was. But she's also basically telling these people, she says, "Don't come." To which AOC has ripped her upside down and one the other, and it just shows you just the discord within the Democrat Party is that they're struggling with this. All the things that they criticize President Trump and his administration over, they're struggling to figure out what to do with these people, and how to deal with this. They really don't have a clue, and they need to figure this out because this is not going away.
You think AOC would be more worried about helping her Edwina rebuild her house, instead of
that's an amazing story in terms of the GoFundMe campaign.
And she drives around in an $80,000 Tesla.
But everybody's contributed a pretty good chunk of money there.
Yeah, and she doesn't want that money, evidently.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, from what I'm saying, she does not want her. She wants the taxpayers to give her Edwina money, not individuals.
Well, if you're AOC, I can understand that in a certain part. It's like, well, this is a total embarrassment that that she's kind of ignored this situation, and it took conservatives to come in there and step in there and raise all this money. That goes against everything AOC believes in.
Yeah, I mean, her, and she's talking about how she finally got to see her Edwina for the first time in so many years, I guess a year and a half. And she goes, her house, Donald Trump still hasn't built her. It'd be funny if Donald Trump just sent her like a $50,000 check to rebuild her house in Puerto Rico. I wonder if AOC would accept that money.
Probably not.
My final thoughts. One, the doctors will be live at Maryland Live tomorrow night, so you can come and see us in person. We've got some swag we'll be handing out, and we've got, we might do some little Dr. Politics spots, so if you want to come in there and just be recorded saying, you love watching the doctors and so on, and let us know who your favorite doctor is, I believe Ryan wins that one though as favorite doctor.
He hasn't even been on the show for months. What is that?
Yeah, I know he's been on for he has been on in it's been about 4 months. He was here earlier this year.
Yeah,
like around April or something. That was the last time he was on. But I know Jason is also in the running for favorite doctor. I know his grandmother.
He hasn't been on for even longer. Come on,
Jason Trott. He was on last week. Jason Trott.
Oh, Trott. I thought you were talking about Jason Stein.
Oh, Jason Stein hasn't been. I don't think he's been on since we've been. since we've done the show.
I think you got to change some of the pictures in that little thing you got.
Yeah, I do. We've got a rotating panel of doctors, so that's why I've got that creative little opening where we've got all of our pictures in there now.
Yeah.
As you see in the opening, and actually, we could actually record people that want to be part of the opening, saying, you're watching Dr. Politics, and it's kind of like stuff like that. And then I think we can get away with using the Captain Kangaroo theme, so I might try that, see if we can do that.
You're not going to give up.
No, I'm not. And that's what is that what Ross Pierpont used to say? Never ever give up. Oh, that was Winston Churchill. Ross just took that as his own quote. But another final thought is the Montgomery County Republican Party had their grand reopening of their headquarters over the weekend. It was very crowded. I kind of left because it was just wait. I was there from 1 to about 2:30 or so. I think we passed each other but I love the new car.
Yeah, well. But I thought, the thing was that it was supposed to go from 2 to 4. I get there like at 2:20, and you're on your way out, and I'm like, what happened here? But I hung around for 15, 20 minutes. It was way too crowded. I think the last time I saw that many people was like a Trump thing that we did there.
Yeah, we did a Trump victory party in 2016,
and that was crazy crowded. We had to use the deck too.
I mean, you'd be surprised how many people come out for free food and free swag.
Well, it was just too hot upstairs.
It was. I mean, I know Josephine left. I left around 2:30. You got there about 2:30, I think.
Yeah, and as I went upstairs, Josephine was coming down.
Yeah, and there was a lot of people that just felt it was just way too warm.
Yeah.
To be up there, and that's and I think it was good. The way they did it, it was a great event, and I know there's other great stuff that are in the works.
I think they did it. Yeah, they did a fabulous job on the reopening. I mean, to have that many people come out, and they came from, it wasn't just Montgomery County Republicans, right? I mean, they were.
I know Batman and Robin came from Baltimore County, and for those of you guys that don't know, Batman and Robin is our pet name for Senator Salling and Delegate Metzger, and Senator Salling has a very nice convertible that we refer to as the Batmobile. And they came down. Al Mendelson, who's a visiting doctor, who's on every now and then. And we've got, I think Dr. Collins will be there tomorrow night too.
Good.
But we had a really good, it was a good turnout. And my final thought is we'll also have copies of Dr. Politics and Political Architects articles and campaign manuals for any candidate that wants to come on out tomorrow night. Just stop by and say hello, and I will have them I'll have them around me somewhere, I'm not sure where, but probably in the room we're going to be doing karaokeing tomorrow night with Nicolai Ambrose, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I wish we could have done a hospitality suite like we've done in the past, but that's for Ocean City when we have a convention there.
Next year.
Next spring, yeah, Ocean City next spring. So Jeff, this is your 4th convention you're coming to.
I think so, yeah. Yeah,
so cool. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you guys next Friday, and maybe tomorrow for a little while. Just hang around, see what pops up in the streams. We may do something, we may not, but it'll be a fun time, and maybe we'll take some video and we'll play it next week on our show.
Someday you want to do a live remote.
Yes, I wanted to do it this time, but it was just too much. I was participating in the convention stuff, so it would have just been too crazy, to do. And so, but maybe Ocean City, we'll go there on a Thursday night and we'll do a live Thursday night from the boardwalk or something like that. Those are always fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And or we could do it live from Dough Rollers. Good night, everyone, with that thought. And if you live on the Eastern Shore, go get some pizza from Dough Rollers. Good night, everyone.
All right, good night.